Sports Extra, and now we've got something very, very special. And now the fact is, you've always heard, or you've often heard this, that life is a journey, travel it well. But when you talk about an unknown journey of thousands of kilometers, and that too on the traditional way of traveling as it used to be, I mean the real way of traveling, you can use the terminology horsepower these days, but it really means something else. But when you look at it in the literal sense of it, then utilizing true horsepower to make this journey is something that we will talk about. Now this culture that has been established and a historical perspective, all of this, I want to bring it to you as well, and I'm very intrigued and very honored as well. At the same time, we're going to be introducing some of these people who will be involved with this. First of all, joining us is Mr. Dr. Jameel, who joins us as well. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab, how are you?
Assalamu alaikum ji, thank you so much.
Great to have you on the show. Also joining us is our sports expert Ali Mehdi. How are you, Ali?
I'm very well, Ahmed, and yourself?
I'm very well as well. Now, Dr. Fahad Jameel, when we talk about your career as well, obviously the doctor part of it says it all. But this Mongol derby, or you being labeled as a horse rider, somebody who's, you picture the long distance, the wind is blowing and somebody appearing in the distance, and that's you on a horse and then traveling 1,000 kilometers. What is this all about?
Great question, Ji, and thank you so much for a great introduction. Four riders that actually they'll be joining me: Umair Qaim Khani, Umar Hayat Khan, and Mozam Hayat, and myself. So that's a team of four that's going, and we all actually grew up together at Eighton College, and that's where we were actually exposed to horse riding as a permanent subject, as Ali would know. Yeah. A lot of us actually didn't enjoy it back in the day, and then some of us actually took it to a next level. Umair plays professional polo in the US and now in Pakistan. So we actually got introduced to a very new discipline of horse riding, which is not tent pegging, which is not polo, but something called endurance horse riding. The way you describe endurance horse riding is that you are doing competitively at least 45 to 50 kilometers in one go. And that is what's the smallest race on a horse. And these are obviously long distance horse races. When we started actually our journey in endurance horse world maybe a couple of years ago, and I live out in Oregon, Portland, I got exposed to the world of endurance horse riding. That is where we found out about the World Series Championship of this, and that was actually the epitome of this sport, was the Mongol Derby that was started less than a decade ago. And ever since then, it became a passion and it became a dream for us to actually participate and compete in it and to represent Pakistan.
Wonderful. I mean, just giving back to the country is something so special and something that we're also proud, and of course I think at the same time we thank you as well for representing Pakistan. But this concept that you talk about, these endurance races or long distance, something that we can say the way traveling used to be done when you talk about past history, and especially the Mongols, known for their fury and the ferocious attitude that they carried throughout the lands, especially in this part where we live, this region, is something I think that trail is very historic as well.
Absolutely. If you see most of the races which are conducted in the US or under, like, let's say somewhere in Middle East and Dubai, that's based on a one horse system. You ride your horse, it's your own horse, you know the horse inside out, you actually know how to ride it, right? And every stride, everything makes sense. The way they actually conducted this race, not only did they make it the world's longest race by making it 1,000 kilometers, but also the official toughest race in the world, because what you're riding here would be semi-wild horses. Some of those horses might not even be what we call in a horse world broken. So they've never had a saddle on top. They wanted this to be the ultimate challenge of horsemanship. So you get a wild horse, you put the saddle on. Now you can imagine how many tricks the horse can do while you're trying to do that and tame it. And then you ride it for about 40 to 50 kilometers based on a navigation GPS quadrant that you're getting. So as you're riding, there can be many, many, many different sort of routes that you can take, because there's just no straight road.
Twists and turns, caverns and whatnot. And they always say know your animal, and this time I think that's a luxury that they don't have when you talk about these semi-wild horses as well. Ali Mehdi, like I said, this becomes a very, very interesting subject, because one of the things that Dr. Jameel highlighted is unfortunate as well at the same time, but I'm glad that we can clear this misconception that when you talk about horses in Pakistan, then immediately two primary sports that come to mind are polo and tent pegging. So once this culture sets in and people are more aware about this is something very interesting, and I think can bring a lot of laurels to Pakistan.
No, I think it can bring a lot of laurels. I mean, Fahad was talking about the fact that when we were actually, growing up, we were actually exposed to tent pegging, and then we, horse riding, and other also, horse riding on a longer routes too. But what he's actually talking about is horse endurance racing. Now, horse endurance racing is something which is new to the world. In the US, actually, it's very popular. Fahad has done many official and unofficial, races over there. He's gone over long distances, about 50 kilometers. This is something which can actually be being brought to Pakistan too. We've got the plains over here, we've got the terrains too. And look, at the end of the day, the most important thing over here is that this is something new to Pakistan. Look, we brought so many sports over here too. But when it comes to Pakistan and the sort of terrains, we have the mountains, we have the plains, we have the deserts of it, and that's exactly what he's going to do over a long period of time. Over there, when he's in Mongolia, he's going to go from one strip to the other over a space of about 10 days. So I think that bringing once he goes and represents Pakistan along with the other four members too, I think they can actually bring those laurels to Pakistan and bring about a new culture over here, which will be a great discipline for children over here.
Dr. Saab, when you talk about the historical aspect of this race, you're replicating what used to be the messenger system established way back in 1224 by Genghis Khan, and that is something, his dynasty made a lot of things that were impossible at that time, but obviously if you look at them on a historical perspective, it was pure genius. So once you take part in this race, not just for the race itself, how important is it on a historical perspective? And then, of course, like you talk about the animal as well, we know that after every 40 kilometers you're changing. So I want that concept to be a bit highlighted by you as well.
Sure. And I think as far as the race in itself was concerned, the reason why it was considered the toughest race was because they're still being conducted on the same horses that Genghis Khan used to conquer the world. A lot of people actually don't know this fact, but those Mongol ponies cannot be exported outside of Mongolia. And the Mongolian nomadic tribe system, they still survive based on their mode of transport, which are horses and ponies. And they actually let them roam around in the wild freely. So those horses are actually still untouched and still preserved with the same genes, the same mannerism that they were actually used to thousands of years ago. Recreating something that historic after decades and centuries later and being a part of that.
But I'll just interrupt you. We'll go towards a short break. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and now we're in exclusive conversation with Ali Mehdi and Dr. Fahad Jameel, and we're talking about this 1,000-kilometer horse endurance race, probably the toughest in the world, called the Mongol Derby. Now, Dr. Saab, I must ask you about the numbers that are participating in this race. Your participation itself is something that Pakistanis will be very intrigued about.
Absolutely. There are about 45 riders this year participating, over 20 countries, mostly from Europe, South Africa, South America, North America, and a couple of riders from Africa as well. We got the four of us, Omar, myself, Mozam, and Umair. We got selected in a training camp in California, Sacramento in 2021. They put us through 5 to 7 days of very strenuous challenges that included horsemanship, endurance. They wanted to make sure we could last for 12 hours in a saddle. And obviously survival skills were a part of it, and so was camping and whatnot.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that you see in terms of this entire race?
I would say the mental challenge of it. All of us have worked out in one way or the other. If you think about it, you go to the gym for 1 hour, you get sort of tired. Now you got to push yourself another hour. Over the course of 12 hours, 10 days. I think the biggest thing is that you have to have the right frame of mind when it comes to that, so that you're actually motivated every day to wake up at 5 a.m., saddle your horse, ride all the way till 7 p.m. through all kind of, actually a lot of people don't know, but in Mongolia it's a high desert. So the kind of temperatures you'll be facing there would be as high as 45 degrees Celsius with rainstorm, thunderstorms, and at night it drops all the way down to -5. So that's all going to happen in the span of 24 hours.
Well, I guess living the Mongolian way is something that you need to get used to. Ali Mehdi, final question to you. What does this mean for Pakistan, and how important is this for entities like us to actually, document this and spread this as much as we can.
I think this is a massive opportunity for Pakistan. You see, this is the first time we're having representation from Pakistan to taking part in this historical Mongol derby, which is actually started about 8-9 years ago. So having these 4 representatives, it's a huge deal for us. And the thing is that, once this is complete and once they bring the laurels, and I'm sure they're going to do extremely well for Pakistan, get in those top ranks over there, then they'll bring that to Pakistan too. And then we can, the fact of the matter is the likes of Fahad, Muazzam, Umar, and also Umar can actually they can be role models over here. They can actually establish, we were talking off air and Fahad himself was saying that, they brought ponies over here. So it's not like, they're going for the Mongol derby just for themselves. They want to bring something back to Pakistan.
Absolutely.
And that's what's extremely important.
Absolutely. Well, Ali Mehdi, thank you very much for joining us. It gives me goosebumps, the energy. I'm just thinking of this AI generated artwork of these 4 Mongol riders, including Dr. Fahad. So that is something to remember. Dr. Saab, thank you very much for joining us. All the very best to you and your team. And like I said, we're all already very proud of you that you've been, you've been kind enough to represent the green flag over here and make sure that Pakistan is represented on this global stage. Thank you very much for joining us. That wraps it up, but all of you can still get in touch and know as much as you can over the internet, through the show as well, about this Mongol derby, and support Team Pakistan, because like I said, that all of us have a responsibility. They're the ones doing the hard work, so all you need to do is spread the message that the Pakistani riders are coming in this Mongol derby, and we're hoping for victory as well. That wraps it up for me and the entire team.